Today, we're going to talk about the difference between closing and negotiating. Those are actually two totally different things. I know most of us think they're the same and that they do intertwine between the two, but they are actually two different things, and they have two different meanings and two different outcomes and goals. Let's begin with some definitions, and I've got these written down. Negotiating is to find a way to overcome through obstacles a difficult path, where closing is bringing something to an end, finality. What I mean by that is negotiating is something you're going to do throughout the entire sales process, not in the sense that we think of negotiating numbers, but you're going to be negotiating obstacles and scenarios and situations to get the customer to the closing opportunity. If you do a poor job in negotiating, you're never going to close. Most of us think of negotiating as the going back and forth on the numbers. We're at 400, they're at 350, we're at 390, they're at 360. And we negotiate the number. Now, that's closing. The negotiating part is what you're doing through the entire sales process. Some misunderstood facts about negotiating. Negotiating is an ongoing process. As I said, it takes place throughout the entire sales process. And it starts at the very beginning with the meet and greet. You see, you're actually negotiating obstacles and scenarios and situations. When a customer states to you, we only have 15 minutes, or you're the first place we've been to. Those are obstacles that you have to negotiate through to get the customer to move forward in your process. Negotiating is all about the value you bring in the product, yourself, and the dealership to get you to that opportunity to close the car deal. I've said to you many times, and this all ties together, that when you sell a car, you have four goals. The first goal is you have to find a car the customer loves. Without that, you've got nothing. Number two, the customer has to like you. They have to enjoy being around you, want to be in your presence. They don't have rapport with you. You're not their best friend. They just have to enjoy you, like being around you. Number three is you have to sell the dealership. And then number four is the price has to equal those three pieces of value. That's the negotiating part. The negotiating is getting the customer to find the car they love, getting the customer to enjoy being in your company, and getting the customer to want to do business at your dealership. Another negotiating reality is that sometimes we have to solve preconceived objections during the sales process. Those are those defensive postures. We know the customer comes in defensive, so you have to negotiate them to come down. That's why we use statements like informational gathering. Do you have to buy a car today? That takes all the pressure off me. Let me give you information. Take home, think about, consider. You're negotiating these obstacles to get the customer to find the car they love, want to be with you, and of course, want to do business at your dealership. Perceptions are kind of unique, okay? Positive effects of perceptions. We have negative effects of perception. A lot of people come in with preconceived notions of what they want to spend. So they might come in with a $400 budget, and now you have to, through your negotiating, either get them to spend more to find the car they love or to accept less of a car based on their budget. Again, you are negotiating. It's not the term of negotiating like most of us think. You're negotiating through a process to get the customer to fall in love with that car. I know I keep repeating myself. So how does this occur? Well, your sales process, like I said, is the negotiation process. You're adding value through your demonstration and presentation throughout the whole process. Again, and I know I keep repeating myself, your goal is to get that customer to a closing situation. They're not going to get to a closing situation until those other factors have come into place. You are changing the customer's perception throughout your presentation. That is critical. Remember, we talk about the 4 rules of sales, and the 4th rule of sales is always try to catch the customer pleasantly off guard. You're trying to negotiate their perception of you by catching them off guard, by not being that typical salesperson, that's always giving them high pressure, trial closes, the if I could, would you, throughout the whole entire process. That is negotiating the customer to lower their defensive postures. You will not get the objection in most cases that are hard to overcome if you do a good job in negotiating throughout the sales process. Again, if the customer falls in love with the car, they like being with you and they want to do business at the dealership, you're not going to get objections at the end like, I want to go home and think about it. The I want to go home and think about it is a clear sign that you did poor negotiations during the sales process. To me, just to me, the two easiest objections to overcome is a price or payment. The payment's too high, the price is more than we want to spend, or trade. You're not giving me enough for my trade. Because both of those objections tell me that I negotiated properly throughout the sales process. I got them to the point where they fell in love with the car, they liked me, and they want to do business at our dealership. Now I'm getting a good closing objection of the payment's too high, or you're not giving me enough for my trade. To me, those are the clearest buying signs you can get, other than, yes, we will buy the car. So it's very important that you understand this. Now, I want to share with you something that I've been teaching for years and years and years. And if you want to write this down, you might want to jot this down, and I'll say it a couple of times. The better the presentation, the better the objection. The better the objection, the easier it is to overcome. I said a few minutes ago, and I'll repeat this again. I said a few minutes ago, the worst objection you can get is, I want to go home and think about it. That's a bad objection. A good objection is one that you can overcome, one that you feel comfortable with. Me, it's price or trade. I usually get those better ones when I make a better presentation. So let me say it again. The better the presentation, the better the objection. The better the objection, the easier it is to overcome. I know you guys are very intelligent. So what I'm going to say next, you're not going to be fooled by. Don't ever let anyone tell you there's an easy way around selling a car. And there's a presentation that you can make that will eliminate objections. That is just not going to happen. And you all know that. Your goal is to get to the closing situation. And your goal is to get objections that you can overcome. Now, obviously, if you do a really good job, you're going to get some people that are going to say, yes, we'll buy the car when it comes time to close the deal. Again, this is all based on how you ask for the sale. If you've done a great job negotiating through the sales process, and now you come up with a worksheet and you give them 15 options and say, circle the one that works best for you, well, now you're going to have to negotiate again, because that is high pressure. Or if you say to somebody, if we can come together on terms and numbers, are you ready to buy the car today? That again is high pressure. You got to negotiate back down. That's why I've always shared with you the 7 most effective words to closing a car deal. Would you like to buy the car? They're expecting that. Again, if you've negotiated properly when it comes time to ask for the sale, you will get more people to say yes with that, would you like to buy the car question. Not everybody, not 50%, not even 25%, but you'll get a few that will just say yes because now they are interested. So it can also work against you. So again, like I said, if you do a poor job during your sales process, this is where you're going to get the I want to go home and think about it. So how does this occur? Well, it occurs, how do you get the bad objection? Because you didn't build enough value in your presentation and demonstration. You had poor presentation and demonstration skills. Or maybe you didn't give it your all. Maybe psychologically you got thwarted. Maybe you bought into an early obstacle of a customer saying, hey, we're not buying a car for 30 days. We just started our shopping process. And now psychological warfare got to you. So you made a poor presentation and demonstration. Maybe your product knowledge wasn't sufficient. Maybe, and this happens, the customer knew more about the product than you did. People do a lot of research today. We know that. So your product knowledge has to be very, very, very strong. Maybe your excitement and enthusiasm was non-existent. I always tell you, if you're not having fun doing what you're doing, go do something else. This is supposed to be fun. You're at your job 40, 50, 60 hours a week. You think about it all the time. A lot of you lie in bed at night thinking, how can I sell more cars? How can I create more traffic? So this is part of your life. If you don't enjoy this, then go do something else, because if you're not enjoying it, you're not showing excitement. And the customer can sense that level of excitement. Maybe you just weren't prepared. Maybe you weren't prepared at all. Maybe you're a new salesperson and you didn't get enough training, sufficient training. Maybe they shortcutted your training process and they're saying, here, go take some ups and we'll work you through the process as you go through it. Maybe you didn't have enough confidence yourself. Maybe here's another reason, you caused objections to develop during the sales process by the questions you asked. See, you don't want objections in the sales process, but you're okay with obstacles. 2 different things. Obstacles have to do with going through the process step to step. Objections have to do with actually buying the car. For example, When you ask somebody if we can come together in terms and numbers, are you ready to buy the car today? And they say no, they're now giving you an objection because you've asked for the sale. An obstacle would be, we don't feel comfortable driving the car. See, those are obstacles you can overcome. So maybe you created obstacles. For example, let's take the one with the drive. Maybe on your presentation and demonstration, you walked them out in the lot, narrowed them down on a couple of cars, and then you asked them, would you like to drive one of them? Or would you like to drive that one there? And they said, no, we don't feel comfortable driving the car. Or no, you're the first. See, you created that obstacle and then you weren't prepared to overcome it. In that scenario, you always want to get the customer to sit in the car first, get them comfortable, make an internal presentation, and then assume we're going to drive the car and say, hey, let's take the car for a drive. So you're good to go. Okay. When it comes now to closing, so we've talked about the negotiating, which again, I know I keep repeating myself, is the process you go through to get to the close. The closing is the culmination of all your efforts during the sales process. This is now where it's going to determine whether you did a good job or not. And that's whether they buy the car at this point in time. Okay. And the customer will let you know how you performed based on a number of factors. The obvious is going to be their statement after you ask for the sale, or again, how you ask for the sale. Think about this for a second. Again, and I'm not saying this is a bad way to do this, it's just my personality. If you offered me 7, 9, 10, 12, 15 options and said, circle the one that works best for you, I'm going to give you an objection you're not going to want to hear. And that objection is going to be, that's a lot of data. I need to go home and digest it and do the math. You're going to say, would you like to do the math here? And now you're going to push me. And now I'm going to become more defensive. And now you got to negotiate my defenses back down again. And that is not a good situation. Now, some of you use that concept and it works very well. If you're going to use that concept, I would not ask which one works best for you. I would still ask the 7 most effective words. Would you like to buy the car? And then when they said yes, then I'd say, okay, which option works best for you? Because at least now I have a commitment. Now I am closing. And I can't iterate again to you enough the importance of those 7 words. You've earned the right to ask for the sale. I've shared this analogy with you before. It's a funny story. Let me repeat it. A couple of years ago, I'm in Philadelphia at a Bahama Breeze, sitting at the bar. It's lunchtime. I'm having a sandwich, a salad, and I'm watching videos. I like to watch videos when I'm eating to relax. It calms me. And this very nice young lady sits down next to me. And we started talking a little bit. I forgot how the conversation went. And then another guy came and sat next to her, and they started talking. And I could tell they liked each other. I could tell. And I could really tell that she liked him just by the dialogue. So at this point here, I had one earbud out because, I'm curious, wanted to hear what was going on, hear the guy's technique, how he was doing. But the problem was the guy never asked for the close. Now, what's the close? The close is to get her phone number or get her to join him again for another date. That's the close. I mean, that's and he would miss these opportunities. And he would say the silliest things. Like, for example, she would say, oh, yeah, I love to go kayaking or canoeing or whatever it was. And he said, oh, yeah, that sounds like it could be fun. That was it. He didn't say, well, let's do it together or let's go do this. And she said, oh, yeah, it's hard to get people to like to do that. He didn't say, oh, I'd love to try it. So you've got to ask for the sale. I think the problem was he was afraid. He was timid. He was shy. He wasn't reading the signs. You need to know the signs. If the customer's sitting down with you at your desk after you've negotiated through the car process, that's a great sign. They want to know more. Don't be afraid to ask for the sale. Now, when it comes time to the closing, I want to share with you this. This is kind of cool. There's 2 types of objections. They're what we call cement objections and sand objections. 2 totally different things. Now, a cement objection, that's where the customer won't budge a penny. They're steadfast on whatever their objection may be. Okay. You come and you say the payment's $400. They say, I'll pay $350 and not a penny more. You try to bump them. They won't bump. You maybe drop your price. They won't drop their price. They won't raise their price at all. That is a cement objection. They are not going to budge. Now, what created that cement objection? Well, most of the time it's a sign of a poor presentation and demonstration. You did not do a good job. You did not create enough value. one of the three things didn't work. Either you're on the wrong car, they don't like you, or they really don't want to do business at your dealership. Could be one of those three things. The only way to get this sale now is to match that demand the price is making. Match the cement objection of I won't spend a penny more than $350. Now, as a side note, let's all be realistic with this. Are there some people that are going to be like that and have a cement objection, even if they like the car, even if they like you, and even if they like the dealership? Absolutely. Those are the exceptions, not the norm. But does that happen? 100%. It's going to happen, but it's only going to happen a few times, especially if you did the right job. Now, what's a sand objection? Well, I told you, sand objection is something that now is going to be something that's more fluid. That's a sign of a good presentation and demonstration. The only reason they're objecting is for maybe they were trained to object, or maybe it's the process they want to follow, or maybe somebody told them to negotiate. Okay. And I'm going to come back to something in a second here, because when it's a sand objection, it means they're flexible. So now you say 400, they say 350, you say 395, they say 355. And so they're flexible. Now you have a sand objection. You can move around. Now, here's the thing that creates a lot of objections when it comes to negotiating, and they're still good, but you can avoid them, is a lot of us prep the customer to negotiate. I've seen this happen, where a salesperson at the end of this presentation demonstration will say, let's go in, we can negotiate the price. Why would you ever say that to somebody? Why? So let's just recap before we end, okay? Negotiating is what you do from the meet and greet through the service walk. You're negotiating them into finding a car they love, liking you, and wanting to do business in your dealership. You're negotiating them out of defensive postures, apprehensions, and fears, so that when they sit down at your desk, you can now close the deal. And that's the difference between negotiating and closing.
Thank you for watching my video, and I hope I inspired you. If you enjoyed the content, please like, share, and click the subscribe button. Once you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell so you can receive more content like this every week. And should you have any comments or questions, I'd love to hear them.